But when I hear people on the left talk about Osama Bin Laden as though he were the Reverend Jim Jones of the Muslim world, that is a phantasmagorical degree of denial of the obvious.
Welcome back for Sam Harris' best comebacks, best witty arguments, best rebuttals against religious people. We're going to dive into this real quick. Please go down and click like and subscribe right now. Do it right now before you forget so that you can see more content like this in the future. And let's go.
Yeah, I think the evolution point is also... Don't do that again. Bless you.
Thank you. Bless you. I get it, because he's anti-religious.
Now, as someone who spent the last 2 years criticizing religious faith, I've become quite familiar with how people of faith rise to the defense of God.
Is he in a boxing ring right now? I think that's appropriate for what he's about to lay down right now.
As it turns out, there are not 100 ways of doing this. There appear to be just 3. Either you argue that a specific religion is true, or you argue that religion is useful, or you attack atheism as intolerant, elitist, or otherwise corrosive of basic human values. Now, the only line of argument in any debate about the validity of religion is an argument that religion is true, or rather that one religion is true, because of course they can't all be true. In fact, our opponents here stand for 2 distinct and mutually incompatible faiths. Was Jesus Christ the Messiah? The rabbi and Dinesh are not likely to agree on that point. As Bertrand Russell pointed out over 100 years ago, even if we knew one of the Earth's religions was true, perfectly true, given the multiplicity of faiths, given their mutual incompatibility, all believers should expect damnation purely as a matter of probability. But before I go deeper into this issue of religion's truth, I just want to illustrate how confused a person must be to argue that it is reasonable to believe in God because religion is useful, because it gives life meaning, because it makes people more moral than they otherwise would be, as the rabbi suggested, because it makes people happy, any of the benefits you could imagine of religion. Okay, imagine you're walking down the street and you run into an old friend, and he looks radiantly happy. You ask him what's going on in his life, and he tells you that everything changed for him the day he realized that he was destined to marry Angelina Jolie. It might occur to you, ask, why does he believe this? I mean, Angelina Jolie is, after all, one of the most beautiful and famous people on the planet. She's not incidentally married to Brad Pitt. They have something like 27 children at this point. Okay, what if your friend, sensing your skepticism, said, "You clearly don't understand. This belief gives my life meaning. Okay, I now know my purpose in life. It's to be Angelina's husband." What if your friend said that this belief has made me a better person? I'm now incredibly kind to children, anticipating having to raise Angelinas once Brad leaves. Or what if your friend said to you, "You can believe whatever you want, but I wouldn't want to live in a universe where I don't marry Angelina Jolie." Okay, it should be quite clear at this point that your friend has lost his mind. Okay, and it's probably a dangerous person, and yet this is precisely the kind of talk that so often passes for wisdom in religious circles and may attempt to pass for wisdom here. Certainly the morality argument is of that sort.
Wow.
Beliefs are not like clothing. Okay? Comfort and utility and attractiveness cannot be our conscious criteria for adopting them. To believe a proposition, you have to believe that you have good reasons for believing it. And the effect that this belief will have on your life cannot be among those reasons. And this is what it is to be clouded by bias. This is why we have phrases like wishful thinking and self-deception. To really believe that there is a God is also to believe that you stand in some relation to his existence, such that if he didn't exist, you wouldn't believe in him. How does the supposed usefulness of religion fit into this scheme? It doesn't. But I think there's We, the atheist community, is somewhat culpable for this because we're criticizing faith and irrational belief in gods. What I've run into in talking about Islam specifically among atheists is a sense that we're somehow logically committed to being equally opposed to all religions, irrespective of their effects. So to sort of single out Islam from the point of view of atheism is somehow to be co-opted by by bigotry, by an alliance with Christians. But I mean, there's nothing that demands that we not notice the different consequences between different faiths. I mean, anyone who is just as worried about the Amish or about Anglicans as they are about Islam is just reading the wrong section of the newspaper.
But when Bob mentioned the mosque controversy, I mean, what was so startling about this, I mean, clearly the mosque is legal to build, it should be legal to build, wherever you build it, you can build a church, you should be able to build a mosque. That's not the issue. The issue is that everyone who rose to the defense of this mosque, did so by denying what is patently obvious. So you have Mayor Bloomberg standing up saying Islam had nothing to do with 9/11. Islam is a religion of peace. 9/11 was as much a product of the actual tenets of Islam as the homophobia of the Christian right is a product of a vast discussion about the abomination of homosexuality that has been going on in Christianity for centuries.
Damn.
And is directly attributable to the writings of Paul. I mean, specific ideas have consequences. I mean, any of you who have read Lawrence Wright's book, The Looming Tower, he talks about the people who went to Afghanistan to fight the Soviets, to fight jihad. And they used to, when one of their comrades would die in battle, first of all, they would put their encampments in completely exposed places so that they could be bombed by helicopters and thereby martyred. And when one of their comrades would die in battle, they would weep with envy. They would congratulate him and weep with envy that they weren't martyred. It seems to me that secular people and religious moderates are uniquely ill-placed to appreciate what that state of mind is like. And yet, people are attesting to this. If we will only listen, people are attesting to this, the strength of this belief system ad nauseum. And the other variables that Bob wants to invoke here, and again, specifically on Islam, economics and political oppression, don't account for this behavior. The 19 hijackers were living in Germany. They all were college educated. Most of them had PhDs. These are engineers and architects.
Wow.
These people, the Germans were monitoring their conversations. Their apartment was bugged for months before 9/11.
Wow.
All these guys talked about was paradise and the Quran and the evils of infidel culture. Read the book Perfect Soldiers. So the problem we have is that we desperately want to believe that everyone views the world the same way, and if we could just moderate our behavior, all of our enemies would disappear. It'd be so much easier to imagine that we made our enemies. There's no evidence for that, no credible evidence for that. And so whenever I hear someone on the left, and again, I am on the left on every relevant issue. I think homosexuals should be free to marry. I think taxes should go up on the wealthy. I think the war on drugs should be declared over. I am left. But when I hear people on the left talk about Osama Bin Laden as though he were the Reverend Jim Jones of the Muslim world, that is a phantasmagorical degree of denial of the obvious. Osama bin Laden could be doing anything else he wants with his life. And the problem we face vis-a-vis Islam is that the version of Islam that he's teaching is really faithful to the Quran and the Hadith. I mean, you have to split hairs to see what he is distorting, if anything. Now, if he were Amish, or a Jain, or even a Buddhist, it would be absolutely obvious what he's distorting. I mean, you just couldn't make sense of his behavior in terms of his faith.
That was Sam Harris. Thanks for watching. Please click like and subscribe below, and I'll get back with the next one.